Dr. Samira Patel stood before the Galactic Council's curved observation window, her reflection ghosting against the backdrop of gleaming ships and distant stars. Her hands, usually steady from years of diplomatic service, trembled slightly as she reviewed the casualty reports from Earth. 17 million dead. Her voice carried across the chamber, cutting through the mumbled conversations of the assembled alien representatives. 17 million human lives lost because of your weapons test, High Counselor Varix. The Setarian diplomat's crystalline skin caught the starlight as they shifted in their hover chair. Their faceted eyes showed no remorse. The test was conducted in a designated sector, Dr. Patel. Your species' inability to properly shield your colonial settlements is not our concern. Samira's jaw clenched. The Setarian Empire's quantum cascade weapon had torn a hole in space-time, sending devastating gravitational waves through 3 solar systems. Earth's newest colony, Nuva Lisboa, had been directly in the path of destruction. We were never notified of these tests, she countered, her dark eyes scanning the chamber. The representatives of 12 advanced species stared back, their expressions ranging from bored to mildly amused. The Galactic Convention of 2189 requires notification of all potentially affected systems. High Counselor Thix, a towering arachnid, clicked their mandibles in what Samira had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive laugh. The convention applies to recognized spacefaring civilizations, Doctor. Your species barely managed to reach your own moon without outside assistance. The chamber filled with subtle sounds of amusement. Samira felt her chest tighten but maintained her composure. She had spent 5 years representing Earth in this chamber, enduring their condescension, their casual cruelty masked as civility. I formally request emergency aid for the survivors, she stated, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. Medical supplies, temporary habitat modules, and… Request denied, Varix interrupted, their crystalline form glinting. The Council's resources are currently allocated to more pressing matters. Perhaps this will serve as a lesson in the importance of proper defensive infrastructure. More clicking, more subtle sounds of amusement. Samira looked around the chamber one last time, memorizing every face, every smirk, every dismissive gesture. Then she straightened her back, smoothed her diplomatic uniform, and spoke with quiet clarity. Then you leave us no choice but to help ourselves. She turned and walked out of the chamber, ignoring the renewed laughter behind her. In her earpiece, a secure channel crackled to life. Did you get all that? She subvocalized. Every word, every face, every biological signature in the room, Marcus Fletcher's voice replied. The former intelligence operative had been her silent partner for 3 years, building a network of human agents throughout Council space. Project Phoenix is ready to proceed. We just needed their final answer. Samira entered her private shuttle, engaging privacy screens. They gave us exactly what we expected. Activate all cells. Protocol Prometheus is now in effect. Understood. The first target packages are already being distributed. The Setarians won't know what hit them. She settled into her pilot's seat, plotting a course back to Earth. No, Marcus, they'll know exactly what hit them. They'll just never see it coming. In the weeks that followed, Samira watched Earth change. The public face remained diplomatic, accepting the Council's decision with apparent resignation. But beneath the surface, humanity's response took shape with cold precision. Research facilities hidden in asteroid belts began producing weapons that could pierce Setarian crystal armor. Sleeper agents activated in every major alien port, gathering intelligence and identifying weaknesses. The scattered human colonies, officially registered as mining operations and research outposts, revealed themselves as military installations that had been preparing for years. Nadia Santos, their top infiltration specialist, had already penetrated the Setarians' primary shipyard disguised as maintenance worker. Her reports detailed critical vulnerabilities in their fleet's defense systems. We're not just going to hurt them, Nadia reported during a secure briefing. We're going to dismantle everything they built their empire on. Every advantage they think they have over us, we've spent years learning how to turn it against them. Samira stood in the underground command center beneath the ruins of Nuva Lisboa, surrounded by holograms showing their agents' positions throughout Council space. The sight of the destruction above had hardened something in her soul, but it hadn't made her reckless. Remember the protocols, she addressed her team. We strike precisely, efficiently, and without mercy. But we are not them. We don't target civilians. We don't test weapons in populated space. We are going to show them exactly what humanity is capable of, and we're going to do it by being better than they ever thought we could be. Marcus Fletcher's hologram nodded approvingly. First strike package is ready. Operation Glassbreaker commences in 72 hours. The Setarian shipyards won't know what hit them until their crystal ships start shattering like cheap windows. Samira looked at the faces of her team, human faces that had endured years of mockery and dismissal, faces that now showed the same quiet determination she felt. They had been patient, gathering intelligence, building their strength, waiting for the council to show its true nature. That patience had run out. Humanity tried to be part of their community, she said softly. We accepted their rules, their restrictions, their contempt. They thought that made us weak. She straightened, her voice carrying the weight of 17 million silenced voices. It's time to show them how wrong they were. As her team dispersed to their stations, Samira remained in the command center, watching the final preparations unfold. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their memory, and they remembered everything. Marcus Fletcher watched the holographic display as Nadia Santos' infiltration team moved through the Setarian shipyards like ghosts. Their synthetic crystalline disguises, developed over years of careful study, reflected the ambient light in perfect mimicry of their targets. Status report, he subvocalized through the quantum-encrypted channel. Primary charges set in fabrication sectors 1 through 7, Nadia's whispered response came back. Their own crystal growth chambers make perfect amplification points. Once we trigger the resonance cascade, their entire production line will shatter. Marcus nodded, though she couldn't see him. The plan was elegant in its simplicity, use the Setarians' own technology against them. Their crystalline ships and structures were nearly indestructible under normal circumstances, but with the right frequency. Team 2 reporting, another voice cut in. Defense grid control nodes are prepped. When their systems crash, they'll think it's a standard maintenance cycle. From her position in the command center back on Earth, Dr. Samira Patel's hologram materialized beside Marcus. Remember, we need this to look like an industrial accident. The Council needs to start questioning the Setarians' competence, not looking for sabotage. Marcus smiled grimly. Don't worry, Doctor, we've spent 3 years building this operation. Every detail is perfect. He remembered the first time he'd met Samira shortly after the Nueva Lisboa massacre. She'd approached him in a quiet bar on Luna, her diplomatic credentials masking a steel he'd recognized immediately. We need to build something, she'd told him, something they'll never see coming. Now, watching Nadia's team complete their final preparations, he saw that vision becoming reality. All teams commence final countdown, he ordered. Synchronize triggers in 3 minutes. The Setarian shipyards sprawled across 3 artificial moons, their crystalline surfaces gleaming with artificial beauty. In less than an hour, that beauty would become their undoing. Nadia's voice came through again, tense with controlled excitement. Primary team clearing final security checkpoint. These arrogant bastards don't even scan their own kind properly. Too convinced of their superiority to imagine anyone could replicate their biology. Marcus watched the countdown timer tick down. Years of preparation, countless hours of intelligence gathering and technological development all converging on this moment. Remember, he said quietly, no casualties, we're better than them. 30 seconds, the system announced. In the holographic display, he could see Nadia's team reaching their extraction points. The Setarian workers continued their normal routines, completely unaware of what was about to happen. 10 seconds. Samira's hologram straightened, her eyes fixed on the display. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a wave of invisible energy, the cascade began. It started in the fabrication chambers, where the precisely calibrated resonance charges activated. The crystalline growth medium, normally used to craft their supposedly indestructible ships, began to vibrate at exactly the wrong frequency. The effect spread through the connected structures like cracks through ice. Marcus watched in satisfaction as entire sections of the shipyard began to dissolve into glittering dust. Defense grid is down, Team 2 reported. Their emergency protocols are trying to respond, but the system thinks everything's normal. They can't even raise the alarm. Through the surveillance feeds, they could see the panic spreading among the Setarian workers. The proud crystalline beings were fleeing in disorder, their usual grace abandoned as their environment literally crumbled around them. Confirmation, Nadia's voice came through, now safely aboard their cloaked extraction vessel. 87% of production capacity destroyed, no casualties. The Setarian Empire just lost their ability to maintain their fleet. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Dr. Patel, would you like to do the honors? Samira's hologram nodded, transmitting encrypted message to all council members now. The message was simple, encoded in a way that would take them weeks to crack. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. It's done, Marcus said quietly. Phase 1 complete. The Setarians will be too busy trying to rebuild to maintain their military commitments to the Council. Their influence will start to wane. Samira's expression was thoughtful, and the other Council members will begin to question their competence. After all, if they can't even maintain their own shipyards. The seeds of doubt are planted, Marcus confirmed. Now we move to Phase 2. Nadia, your team has performed admirably. Get some rest. You'll be needed for the arachnid operation next month. As the teams began their extraction procedures, Marcus reviewed the incoming data. The damage was catastrophic but contained exactly as planned. No lives lost, but billions in resources destroyed. More importantly, the Setarians' reputation for technological superiority would be severely damaged. You know they'll eventually figure out it wasn't an accident, he said to Samira's hologram. She nodded. By then it won't matter. We're not just destroying their military capabilities, Marcus. We're dismantling their image, their influence, their power. When they finally realize what's happening, they'll have no one to turn to, he finished, because we'll have already shown the Council exactly how vulnerable they all are. The holographic displays showed the last of their teams clearing the area. In the background, emergency responses were finally beginning to organize, far too late to save the shipyards. Marcus thought of the 17 million dead on Nueva Lisboa, of the Council's laughter when they denied aid. Send word to ourselves and the other systems, he instructed his communications team. Tell them to begin preparations for Phase 2. The Council thought humanity was weak because we sought peace, because we tried diplomacy. Samira's hologram smiled coldly. They're about to learn that patience isn't weakness, and humanity's patience has run out. As the displays showed their teams vanishing into the darkness of space, Marcus reflected on how far they'd come. The Council had mocked humanity's emotional nature, their tendency to hold grudges, their long memory for both kindness and cruelty. They were about to learn just how dangerous those traits could be in a species they'd underestimated for far too long. Derek Cole crouched in the shadows of Outpost Sigma-7's maintenance tunnels, listening to the rhythmic clicking of arachnid guard patrols above. The research station was actually a forced labor camp, where hundreds of humans were put to work mining rare minerals under the pretense of scientific cooperation. Control, I have eyes on the primary security hub, he whispered into his neural comm. Ready to proceed on your mark. Acknowledged, Marcus Fletcher's voice responded. Dr. Patel has the diplomatic corps keeping the Council distracted with trade negotiations. They won't be looking this way for at least 6 hours. Derek checked his tactical display, where red dots indicated the positions of arachnid guards. After the successful strike against the Setarian shipyards 2 months ago, the Council species had grown paranoid, but not paranoid enough. They still couldn't imagine humans being capable of such sophisticated operations. Nadia, are your teams in position? He asked. Affirmative, her voice came through, cool and professional. We've got 3 infiltration units ready to move on the other facilities in the system, just waiting on your signal. Derek allowed himself a grim smile. The arachnids had been particularly cruel in their treatment of human laborers, justifying it with their beliefs about superior species having the right to exploit lesser ones. Today, that superiority complex would cost them dearly. Beginning Phase 1, he subvocalized, activating the first set of programmed nanites. The microscopic machines had been introduced to the station's water supply over the past month, harmless until activated. Now they began their work, targeting the specialized silk-producing glands that the arachnids used for their security systems. Above, the first confused clicks and hisses began as the guards discovered their ability to produce security webbing was failing. It would take them hours to realize why, and by then it would be far too late. Team 2, execute, Derek commanded, moving swiftly through the tunnels. Years of studying arachnid architecture had taught them every weakness in their supposedly superior designs. The maintenance paths designed for their worker drones were perfect infiltration routes for human operatives. Samira's voice came through the calm. Remember, this isn't just about liberation. We need to secure evidence of their violations of the Galactic Labor Treaties. The Council won't be able to ignore this once it becomes public. Already on it, Derek responded, reaching the first security checkpoint. The guard there was clicking in confusion, trying unsuccessfully to seal a breach with non-functioning silk glands. Derek's neural implant translated the arachnid's frustrated communications to its superiors. The guard never saw the shadow that slipped past it. Within minutes, Derek reached the security hub. The arachnid controllers were too busy dealing with system failures to notice the small devices he planted on their quantum computers. The viruses contained within would do more than just disable security. They would broadcast evidence of the arachnid's crimes to every diplomatic channel in Council space. Phase 1 complete, he reported, moving to prisoner sections now. The human laborers were kept in low-gravity cells, their bodies weakened by months of exploitation. Derek's heart clenched at the sight, but he forced himself to focus on the mission. Revenge would come later. Now was about salvation. Control initiating Phase 2, he announced, triggering the second set of nanites. These ones targeted the station's environmental systems, flooding specific sections with a gas that would sedate arachnid biology while leaving humans unaffected. The response was immediate. Throughout the facility, the clicking of guard patrols began to slow and cease. In the security hub behind him, the controllers slumped over their stations. All teams execute Phase 3, Derek commanded. Throughout the facility, hidden panels in the walls began to open, revealing caches of weapons and equipment that had been smuggled in piece by piece over months. At the same time, the cell doors slid open, their locks disabled by the security breach. The prisoners emerged cautiously at first, then with growing confidence as they found their guards unconscious. Derek watched with satisfaction as they armed themselves with the provided equipment. "Your attention, please," he announced over the facility's comm system. "This is a Project Phoenix liberation operation. You are now free. Those who wish to fight take up arms. Those who need medical attention proceed to the designated safe zones. Transport ships will be arriving within the hour." A cheer went up from the freed prisoners. Derek noticed some of them were already organizing into defensive units, their military training showing through despite months of imprisonment. The arachnids had believed they were breaking human spirits. Instead, they'd been forging weapons. "Nadia status of other facilities?" he asked. "All proceeding according to plan," she reported. "Similar success rates across all targets. The arachnids won't have any forced labor camps left in this sector by the end of the day." Marcus's voice cut in, "Incoming transmission from Dr. Patel. You'll want to hear this." Samira's voice was filled with satisfied determination. "The evidence is already spreading through council networks. The arachnids' representatives are being bombarded with accusations from their own allies. Between this and the Setarian shipyard disaster, the council's unity is beginning to fracture." Derek watched as the freed prisoners secured the facility, their movements showing years of suppressed training and discipline. The arachnids had assumed they were dealing with simple laborers. They'd never realized that many of their prisoners were actually trained soldiers, placed there deliberately to be ready for this moment. "What about the sedated guards?" he asked. "Leave them alive," Samira ordered. "When they wake up, they'll find themselves in their own cells. Let them experience what they inflicted on others, and let their superiors wonder how mere humans managed to defeat their superior biology." As transport ships began arriving to evacuate the freed prisoners, Derek made his way to the facility's communication center. There, he planted the final surprise, a quantum virus that would spread through the arachnid communications network, destroying their coordination capabilities. "Mission accomplished," he reported, moving to extraction point. As he prepared to leave, Derek took one last look at the facility. The arachnids had built this place as a symbol of their dominance over lesser species. Now it would stand as a monument to their hubris. "Control, send word to the cells in other sectors," he said. "Tell them to begin preparations for the next phase. The Council is about to learn another lesson about humanity." "And what lesson is that?" Marcus asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Derek's voice was cold as space itself. That chains don't just bind the prisoner, they also bind the one holding them, and now those chains are breaking. Liam Reeves moved through the crystalline corridors of the Galactic Council's central archives, his quantum camouflage suit bending light around him like water. The archive's security systems, designed to detect any known form of infiltration, remained blissfully unaware of his presence. After all, they had been programmed by species who believed humans incapable of such advanced technology. "I'm approaching the core repository," he subvocalized to his team. "Status on the diversion." "Proceeding as planned," Nadia Santos replied from her position in the council's diplomatic quarter. "Our friend Dr. Patel has the entire council in an uproar over the arachnid labor camp evidence. No one's watching the archives." The past 3 months had seen the careful unraveling of the council's unity. First the Setarian shipyards, then the arachnid labor camps. Each revelation had driven wedges between the once unified species. Now it was time for the killing stroke. "Marcus, status on the defense grid?" Liam asked, his fingers dancing over the quantum-encrypted tablet in his hands. "Grid is looped on my mark," Marcus Fletcher responded. "They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. You'll have exactly 47 minutes before the system autocorrects." Liam reached the central data core, a towering crystal matrix containing millions of years of council records. More importantly, it contained evidence of countless atrocities, betrayals, and secret agreements, the dark foundation upon which the council's supposed civilization was built. "Beginning primary interface," he announced, connecting his tablet to the crystal matrix. The quantum virus they'd spent years developing began its work, sifting through data at impossible speeds, searching for specific patterns. "Director Patel, are you seeing this?" he asked, using Samira's new title. After the success of the previous operations, she'd been promoted to overall director of Project Phoenix. "Crystal clear," Samira responded, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "Every dirty secret, every backroom deal, every betrayal, it's all here." The data flowing across Liam's screen told a story of systematic oppression spanning centuries. Species after species had been manipulated, exploited, and discarded by the council races. Humanity wasn't the first to suffer their arrogance, just the first to fight back effectively. "Package 1 uploaded to all major information networks," he reported. "Every independent world in council space will have access to this data within hours." Marcus's voice cut in, 29 minutes remaining on the defense grid loop. Liam moved deeper into the archive, following the data trail to its oldest sections. Here lay the true prize, evidence of the council race's own barbaric origins, proof that their claims of natural superiority were lies built on forgotten histories. "Package 2 preparing for upload," he announced. "This should be particularly interesting to their own populations. Turns out their natural evolution to superiority involved quite a bit of genetic manipulation and stolen technology." Samira's laugh was cold. "Upload everything. Let their own people see what their leaders have been hiding. The council preached unity while practicing division. Let's see how they handle being truly divided." As the data packages continued uploading, Liam planted the final surprise: a quantum virus that would permanently alter the archive's security protocols, creating backdoors that only Project Phoenix could access. "15 minutes," Marcus warned. "Nearly done," Liam responded, his fingers flying over the interface. "Final package uploading now. This one's special, detailed records of every discussion about Earth, every dismissive comment, every decision to withhold aid or technology. Let their population see how their leaders' arrogance led them to this moment." Nadia's voice came through, confirmation from diplomatic quarter. "The first data packages are already causing chaos. 3 council members have stormed out of emergency sessions. 2 others are demanding investigations into their allies' past activities." "Time to go," Marcus urged, 10 minutes until grid reset. Liam disconnected from the matrix, but not before sending one final message through every council communication channel: "Pride blinds, knowledge burns, the truth sets free." As he made his way to the extraction point, alarms began blaring throughout the council complex. Not for him, his presence remained undetected, but for the diplomatic crisis unfolding above. "All objectives completed," he reported, slipping into the hidden transport tube they'd installed months ago. "The council's own records will be their undoing. Their unity was built on shared superiority. Now they'll turn on each other, each trying to prove they were less guilty than their allies." Well done, Samira's voice held fierce satisfaction. Return to base. The final phase begins tomorrow. As his transport pod shot through the hidden tunnels beneath the council city, Liam reflected on the elegant brutality of their plan. They hadn't needed to destroy the council militarily. All they'd needed to do was expose the rot at its core. Director, he said quietly, what do you think they'll do when they realize it was us? That humans orchestrated their downfall? Samira's response was cold and clear. By then, it won't matter. Their armies will be divided, their alliances shattered, their populations demanding accountability. They thought humans were primitive because we still felt things like anger and remembered betrayal. They're about to learn, Marcus added, that memory and emotion properly channeled are the deadliest weapons of all. The Council archives continued downloading their secrets to every corner of known space, while above, the mighty chamber of the Galactic Council descended into chaos. The proud leaders who had once mockingly denied aid to Earth now found themselves facing questions they could not answer. And in the shadows, humanity's agents prepared for the final act of their revenge. Admiral Samira Patel stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Nemesis, watching the tactical display as the combined human fleet dropped out of quantum space around the Council capital. The massive ships, their existence hidden for years in supposedly primitive mining operations, took up perfect attack positions. All fleet elements reporting ready, Marcus Fletcher announced from his tactical station. Targeting systems locked on every Council military installation. Their defense grid is still compromised from Liam's infiltration. And their fleets, Samira asked, though she already knew the answer. Scattered, Nadia reported from her intelligence station. The Setarians are still rebuilding their shattered shipyards. The Arachnids are dealing with internal revolts after the labor camp revelations. The others are too busy accusing each other of archive data manipulation to form a unified defense. Derek Cole's voice came through the command channel. Ground teams in position throughout the city. We can disable their remaining defenses on your order. Samira nodded, remembering that day in the council chamber years ago when they had laughed at Earth's request for aid. She was no longer the diplomatic representative seeking help. Now she commanded humanity's combined fleet, built in secret while the council species mocked their primitive technology. Open a channel to the council chamber, she ordered. Let them see who has come calling. The massive view screen flickered to life, showing the panicked faces of the council representatives. Their usual arrogance had vanished, replaced by fear as they realized the true extent of their vulnerability. This is Admiral Samira Patel of the Earth Defense Fleet, she announced, her voice carrying the weight of years of calculated patience. You may remember me from my previous role. I've come to renegotiate humanity's position in galactic affairs. High Counselor Varix, their crystalline form dulled with stress, tried to summon their old authority. This is an act of war you cannot. We can, Samira cut them off. Your military forces are divided, your alliances are shattered, your populations are in revolt after learning of your countless betrayals. You have no power here except what we choose to allow you. She walked closer to the screen, her dark eyes hard. For years, you treated humanity as a joke. You denied us aid when we needed it most. You exploited our people in hidden labor camps. You mocked our emotions, our memories, our sense of justice. Now you will understand exactly what those traits mean when combined with patience and intelligence. The tactical display showed more human ships emerging from quantum space, the hidden fleets that had been building strength in secret bases throughout Council space. The Council representatives watched in horror as their capital was surrounded. But we are not you, Samira continued. We will not exploit, we will not enslave, we will not mock. Instead, we will offer you a choice. She nodded to Marcus, who transmitted the prepared terms to the Council's systems. Option 1, resist and watch as we dismantle every aspect of power you have built on the suffering of others. Option 2, accept a new galactic compact, one based on genuine equality, mutual respect, and actual justice. You expect us to submit to human authority, one of the Council members demanded. Samira smiled coldly. No, we expect you to join a true federation of equals, one where no species can claim natural superiority, where aid is given freely to those in need, where cooperation replaces exploitation. She paused, letting them see the fleet's weapons systems powering up. You have 1 hour to decide, choose wisely. Humanity's patience, while great, is not infinite. As the transmission ended, Samira turned to her crew, the team that had helped orchestrate the Council's systematic dismantling. Status reports. Ground teams ready to move on your order, Derek confirmed. All archive data continues to spread through Council space, Liam added. Their population centers are demanding reforms. Intelligence networks confirm no significant military forces within response range, Nadia reported. Marcus smiled grimly at his tactical display. We have them completely at our mercy, just as they once held us at theirs. Samira looked out at the glittering council city below, remembering the millions lost on Nueva Lisboa. This wasn't just revenge, it was revolution. A chance to rebuild galactic civilization on a foundation of genuine respect rather than assumed superiority. Humanity tried to join their community as equals, she said quietly. They forced us to become their reckoning instead. Now we'll teach them what they should have learned long ago. True civilization isn't built on power over others, but on power shared with others. The Council's response came in 43 minutes, complete acceptance of the new compact. They had finally learned what humanity had known all along, that real strength lies not in mockery or exploitation, but in the ability to turn enemies into allies, fear into cooperation, and arrogance into wisdom. As the sun rose over the council capital, Samira watched the first joint session of the new Galactic Federation begin. The representatives of a dozen species, human and alien alike, gathered not in a hierarchy of supposed superiority, but in a circle of equals. They had remembered every insult, every betrayal, every moment of mockery. But in the end, humanity had chosen to use that memory not just for revenge, but for reformation. They had dismantled an empire of arrogance and built in its place a federation of equals. And in doing so, they had proven that the greatest power lies not in the ability to destroy your enemies, but in the wisdom to transform them into friends.